Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna be diving into the nitty-gritty details and the costs that I have spent on the Hypermotard. So I'm gonna be breaking down all the costs, which are cosmetic and also mechanical. And I will also be explaining a bit the history of this bike, how I bought it, what's going on, what I've spent, and what's the way forward also. So first things first, let's talk a bit about the history of this bike and how I managed to buy it. So I live in the island of Malta, and bikes like this one, the Hypermotard, are pretty rare here. So it's not very easy to buy one if you actually want one. Usually you have to import them from Sicily, which is the closest market to Malta, and it's pretty easily accessible by ferry. And the bikes in Sicily usually also cost much cheaper than Malta because of the fact that to register a foreign bike here, you need to pay usually thousands of euro, which is honestly a scam. So this bike, the Hypermotard, originally I think it was listed about 7,000 euro, but it didn't get sold for quite a while, and the seller reduced the price. Now, when he reduced the price again, I think it was around 6,500 or 6,000 euro. I got interested in this bike. I wanted a naked bike, more specifically a Hypermotard, because I really like these bikes, especially the single-sided swing arm. It looks beautiful on this bike, honestly. Anyways, that is when I went to see the bike. Now, the bike was parked underground and it hasn't been run for quite a few years, I would say. Probably 1 or 2 years, as the owner told me. So I was already expecting that the bike was in bad condition, especially in underground. There's a lot of humidity, so there would be a lot of rust and corrosion on the bike. Now I still decided to buy it despite everything was dark. I couldn't see everything, the forks were leaking, there was rust everywhere, the tires were in bad condition. There was so much stuff that's wrong on this bike, but I couldn't really see it. So I just started it up, I bit the bullet, and I just bought it there and then. So I bought this bike for 5,500 euro. If I managed to see all the bad things that this bike had, I would probably have reduced the price even more, probably to 5,000 or 4,500. And you will notice this with all the expenses that I had to spend on this bike. So now that we've got a bit of a history about the bike, I'm gonna start talking about the expenses. Now I'm gonna try and be transparent and list all the expenses, including even the serviceable parts, such as oil and spark plugs. So we're gonna have the full list that I've spent. So let us start off. First thing, we've got the engine guards. I've bought these for around 85 euro. Unfortunately, I didn't notice that the Monster 801 and the Hypermotard 801 have a different engine, even for the same years. So unfortunately, the alternator side covers didn't fit my bike, but we managed to fit the clutch side. So at least we've got half of them working. So that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, I decided to keep the covers. Maybe I will sell them to someone if I find who has a Monster 801. So next up, we've got spark plugs. So this bike uses quite a specific spark plug that you can't find from other brands. I don't know, such as Champion or Denso. So you have to buy specifically NGK. And the spark plugs cost around 15 euro each. So obviously you need two on this bike because it's a twin cylinder. Yeah, and the spark plugs are model number MAR9AJ. So yeah, that is 15 euro each, so total cost 30 euro. Next up, when we replace the spark plugs, we also replace the coils. Now, this is a very important thing to do on this bike specifically because the coils had an issue where they were, I think it's overvolting the ECU and the dashboard. So it's quite commonly found on the forums and even on YouTube. So I don't know if you write Christmas tree lights or something like that, you will find people that got kind of bitten with this issue. And yeah, when they start the key, everything starts flashing around. So apparently this is caused by the coils, and there even was a recall for this. They would install some kind of resistors in the wiring, but the ultimate fix is to change the coils. So in my case, I decided to go with a Donen brand. I bought them from AliExpress, funnily enough, but they worked perfectly well. So I really recommend them. So if you guys have the same bike, the brand is Donen. I will also write the parts, everything in the description of this video. And these coils costed €85 for both. So next up, a quite recent issue, the exhaust. When I took the bike to the track very recently, the exhaust split the heat shield brackets. So the welding of these brackets split. So I had 4 holes in the exhaust, which I needed to be welded. Again, this is also quite a common issue. I found that these brackets broke quite often, and also people had cracks around the flange of the exhaust. So yeah, we got that fixed with some welding. That costed also €70. Next up, we've got the O2 sensors, which are related to the exhaust. So we've replaced both of them. Again, you have 2 of these, one on each manifold for each cylinder. These only costed €15 each, so quite cheap. Again, I bought these from AliExpress. As if you buy the original parts, it would be insanely overpriced. I think they were around €130 each. So yeah, we've got them for €15 each. Quite a cost saving, and they honestly work pretty well. I've had both of them for quite a few months now, and yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the quality of these cheap ones. So next up, we've got another big issue with this bike, which is the starter motor. So the initial versions of the starter motors on this bike, I think they were made in Thailand, and you will notice this when you view the cap without any design, and that is actually the default one, which is gonna go bad pretty soon. They're the low quality versions, I would say, and they gave out these issues where it's kind of not enough cranking power in the start, and sometimes the bike wouldn't start. It keeps on cranking, and it doesn't start. So yeah, I don't know if there was actually a recall on this for these bikes, but almost everyone I saw on the forums had to change these starters for the newer version, which Ducati also revised, and finally installed the Denso unit. Now, for me, I didn't go for a Denso unit because it costed €600, which obviously I'm not gonna spend, for a €5,000 bike. So I again went with AliExpress and I found the starter. You can also find it on eBay, I believe so. And I found it for around €80. Now, funnily enough, you would say, wow, that's a big price difference between 80 to €600. But honestly, the quality is insane, for €80. I've had it for a few months now, the starter, and honestly, I've been impressed. Like, the bike starts in a second compared to before, where it sometimes took up to 3-5 seconds. So yeah, that is a thing that you have to change on this bike. So the coils and also the starter motor. Those are the 2 most important things to change if you have a Hypermotard. So apart from the starter, so when you remove the starter, you also need to change the gasket. I think you can reuse it, but I don't feel safe reusing it because you have to open the engine. So might as well change this gasket, which sits between the starter and the engine case. So that costed also €15. So next up, we're moving on to the parts which keeps the bike moving. So we're talking about the chain. So we've bought a Regina chain, and that costed €130. We've got the gold one, for the nice aesthetics. And after that, we've also got some foot pegs and also a gear lever. So these are quite recent changes also I did to the bike because they kind of got destroyed during the track weekend. So I've scraped a lot the pegs while leaning, and funnily enough, even the gear shifter. And finally it broke off with all the scraping. So the pegs, total price for those, €25, and the lever costed around €22. Next up, we've got some tires on this bike. So I've bought a used set initially. I just bought these for the trek. So we've got a Michelin Power Cup in the front and the Michelin RS on the back. So these costed me only €150. They're pretty amazing tires. I never felt I was like in danger with these tires. I also didn't use tire warmers at the trek. They heated up pretty well and very fast, like just one lap. So yeah, I'd say they are pretty good tires, but they were insanely fast. So yeah, be careful because they are, if you buy them new, they are very expensive tires. I think they cost around €400. So yeah, I bought these for 150. They were used by someone else at the track. They only did like a couple of laps, so they were quite new, honestly. And yeah, I just decided to grab the bargain. Next up, we've got the forks. So when I bought the bike, the forks were leaking really, really bad. So we changed the oil and also the fork seals. So fork seals are pretty cheap. They're €22, and we've got some 7.5W oil, fork oil, which costed around €10. So yeah, forks are pretty cheap to maintain and change the oil. So talking about the front and side of the bike, we've had to fix also the front wheel. So yeah, when I bought the bike, I didn't notice, but I noticed that the front wheel had a dent in it, which we needed to fix up. So yeah, we got that straightened out, and that costed us €70. So next up, electrical. We've changed the battery on this bike. So first, initially, I went for a gel battery. It was slightly bigger than the stock one. Eventually, this battery died, and I just bit the bullet and went ahead for a lithium battery. And honestly, that was the best decision ever. The combination of a new starter plus a lithium battery on this bike, it's totally worth it, guys. I would suggest that you buy a lithium battery for this bike. Honestly, the bike needs those cranking amps from a lithium battery. It starts so much faster and better with a lithium battery. So yeah, the battery costs €130, and honestly, that was a very good decision to do. So next up, we've got the rear light, which is integrated. So it has the indicators built in also, and it's LED. And that costed us for €36. It came with the plug. It also kind of pre-wired, so it was very easy to change. And yeah, for €36, I'd say it's very worth it. You clean up the rear of the bike. You can remove the standalone indicators. So yeah, the rear comes out pretty nice with the integrated tail light. So next up, we've got some cosmetics. We've got the mirrors, which are stealth look. I think they are some kind of Rizoma knockoffs. I've bought them for €25, I think. Yeah, that was €25. And honestly, the quality that I got with the price that I paid, it's 10 on 10. Like the mirrors look insanely good on this bike. Very stealthish. You go to the track, you can just flip them over, and yeah, it's very nice, like very worth it. Some other cosmetics, we've got also the radiator guard. Well, although it's a cosmetic, it also protects the radiator from stone chips, so it's quite a good upgrade to do. That costed €30. And again, moving to the tail side, we've got a tail tidy, which cleaned up the rear really nice, and we removed also the indicators, since they are in the integrated taillight now. And the tail tidy costed us €32. Now we've also got some grips, which costed €5, very cheap. And also some bar ends, which costed €10, pretty cheap. And they change up the front of the bike. Really nice touches. Now for the track, I decided to also get an exhaust guard, which costed €15. This is just in case you crash on the right hand side. At least you protect the exhaust, which by the way is an SC project, so it's quite costly on this bike. So yeah, it's always nice to have some protection on the expensive parts when you go to the track. And I've also decided to get a baffle, which sits between the exhaust and the mid pipe kind of, and it was only €13. I don't know if that actually worked because, as a project, they're insanely loud, and I just wanted to reduce the noise just a little bit. So next up, we've got some maintenance stuff. So we changed the oil on this bike. So I've used some Champion 1550 oil. This is like their premium version. That's the Pro Pulse TT. And apart from that, I've also changed the oil filter, which is also a Champion brand. I don't know, I really like the Champion brand, and they're very easily accessible over here in Malta. So that is really good. Apart from that, we've also changed the air filter, which is a high flow. That's pretty standard air filter. That costed us 15 euro. We've also changed the radiator coolant. That costed us another 15 euro. And just a little cosmetic upgrade, the brake reservoir cover. We've changed that. It has a nice little Hypermotard logo, and that costed us 5 euro. Now, the last thing I need to mention, I hope I didn't forget anything else. I also changed the rear caliper and also the rear ABS sensor. Now, the story behind this was my rear brake caught fire. Somehow the adjustment of the rear pedal got messed up, and yeah, with the pressure build-up, the pads got stuck at the back. So yeah, they got overheated, and yeah, we had to change everything. So I tried to rebuild the caliper first, but it wasn't worth it at all. The rebuild kit cost the same as a new caliper, so I just went ahead and bought a fully complete caliper, even with pads. The caliper I got was from a 950 SP version, so I believe it's titanium, and yeah, so it's a bit lighter than the one I had, and that costed me 70 euro. It was practically new, like maybe only a few miles of usage, so that was pretty worth it. We've also got the pads with that. And yeah, with the fire, the ABS sensor also got damaged. So we've had to replace that with a Bosch unit. Thankfully enough, this is like a universal part, which is used on multiple bikes. So that costed us 22 euro. Okay, so let's add this all up now, finally. And we've got the total of 1,292 euros. Hopefully I didn't miss anything out, but yeah, that should be the average total of this bike. So that brings the total of this bike to 6,792 euro. If I knew all the repairs that had to be done, I would have brought it more down initially. Unfortunately, I had to do a lot of repairs, and really big ones, such as the starter. And yeah, the cost of the bike only came this low, I would say, because I did all the repairs, and also I found cheaper versions of the hardware I installed. If, for example, we bought the original starter, which is 600 euro, of course, the total cost, for example, would have gone over 7,000 euro, which honestly would have made the bike extremely not worth it. Now, honestly, after rebuilding all the stuff and doing all these upgrades, the bike has really grown on me. And yeah, it's really, really fun to ride this bike, especially on the track. It's very powerful, it's very agile, and it's very easy to maneuver. You can sometimes outrun the liter bikes on the curves, even though you have half the power that they have. But yeah, it's been quite a journey these past few months. Thankfully, we've managed to do all the repairs ourselves. Yes, some repairs were challenging more than others. Some took weeks, some took days, some took a few hours, and some took a few minutes. Yeah, thankfully, we've got everything sorted out. Now, remember, guys, building the bike is a journey. Some costs were unexpected, like the rear brake, which caught fire, and also the front wheel had a dent in it. Those were kind of unexpected. So, yeah, you always have to account for those situations which are not planned, which kind of increase the cost of the project. But yeah, honestly, I would like to hear your opinion, guys. Just let me know if you think this build was worth it, if you have any suggestions for this bike, next upgrades, or something that I can improve on. And also maybe let me know the prices of hypermotards in your country. So, what is the future for this bike? Now, definitely, I want to change the look of this bike. Maybe like a sticker kit or something like that. I don't really like the plain red color. I would like it to stand out a bit more. So, I think a sticker kit would easily fix that. And it shouldn't break the bank either. So, I've been looking at them for quite a few weeks now, and the average cost for a sticker kit is around 130 150 euro, so it is not that bad, and then it improves the aesthetics of the bike by a lot. Apart from changing maybe the look of the bike, honestly, the bike runs pretty well now and I'm happy with it. So we're definitely going to be going more trek weekends with it and enjoy it as much as we can. And yeah, we'll see what comes along the journey with this bike, and hopefully we don't need to do any more major repairs. So thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of costs on my Hypermotard. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video, this helps me a lot. Also drop a comment if you have any suggestions or you would like to voice your opinion on this build. Also, if you would like to ask any questions or you want me to share any knowledge about this build, ride safe and I will see you in the next video. See ya!